There is no way that he just said this, as Cedric Maxwell went on his podcast and spoke about Brad Stevens possibly making a move and him wanting him to pursue and bring back Lonnie Walker. That's right. So will Brad Stevens follow through and go through with this? Will he possibly consider bringing back Lonnie Walker and adding him to Joe Mazzulla's offense? And even if he did, how would it possibly get done for this Celtics team? We'll be diving in, looking at all of that and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I am Bruce Velez, and you guys have been absolutely fantastic, showing your love and support on the channel, which has been super, super appreciative over the last couple weeks. I'm sorry that I missed the last couple of days. I was busy this weekend, but with the trade deadline obviously coming on Thursday, we're going to have so much news coming about this Celtics team over the next couple of days. So if you want to make sure you stay up to date on everything, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as we are pumping out videos for you guys on everything revolving around this Celtics team. Without further ado, though, let's dive into the video at hand and let's discuss this Celtics news. Make sure to grab that snack because this is interesting. As Cedric Maxwell, former Boston Celtic, as we all know, has a podcast where he talks on CLNS Media, and recently he spoke up about the Celtics possibly pursuing and why he wants the Celtics to bring back a player that played on the team in the preseason. Now, before we dive into this, I do want to say that the Celtics did have a fantastic comeback win yesterday versus the Philadelphia 76ers, a 26 comeback point victory, which was the biggest comeback this NBA season. I want to give kudos to all the boys who played their hearts out after beating the Pelicans as well on the road and keeping this win streak alive now at 3 games. I love to see it from the Boston Celtics continuing on this nice momentum train. But without further ado, let's dive in and let's look at this news. A Celtics legend makes a plea for Boston to add a former first-round pick to the roster. And this article is courtesy of Ryan Stainable. What we see here is with their current cap situation, the Celtics aren't going to make any big trades at the trade deadline. And we've been knowing this, as if they are going to want to improve their roster, they will have to do it on the fringes. But Boston will likely be looking at cheap options. And if that's something they want to do before the deadline passes in a few days, being in the second apron has diminished their ability to make big trades. But one former Celtic player thinks the Celtics should go after someone who wouldn't need to be traded for, and that is Lonnie Walker, as Cedric Maxwell is hoping that they bring him back to the roster. And we see a quote here from Maxwell saying that he really likes what Walker can bring to the floor. Specifically, he likes that Walker is able to put the ball in the basket, something this Celtics team has seen in struggles throughout this season. In games in the fourth quarter throughout the season, we have seen the Celtics run into some struggles making the basket in the second half, and Lonnie Walker would definitely address that need. He states, "You never fall in love with the product, you always look to make it better." He says, "Give me another guy who is a scorer, who is a bucket getter. Lonnie Walker is a bucket getter," he said in the Cedric Maxwell podcast. And obviously, as we know, Walker is a former Celtic, as he was on the preseason roster as one of the final cuts before the regular season began, where he's currently playing overseas. Boston obviously wouldn't need to send anyone out in a trade in order to acquire Walker, which is part of why Maxwell likes him so much. He is someone who you can just come in, can score when called upon, and Walker wouldn't play very much, as he wouldn't be on the fringes of the as he would be on the fringes of the rotation. But if the Celtics did to sign him back on the roster, he could be a solid addition. While playing in Lithuania, Walker is averaging 9.7 points, 2.2 rebounds, and 1.3 assists this season. And we know why the Celtics did not keep Lonnie Walker in the first place. It was due to the fact that they did not want to pay that extra luxury tax. And with adding Lonnie Walker and having him be a 15th guy on this roster, even his $2 million contract would result the Celtics into being an $11 million contract, which would be very, very difficult for the ownership to pay for a guy to basically play sporadic minutes. Therefore, Lonnie Walker was waived. They did try to move Jaden Springer, but were unable to, as they would have to attach draft capital. And as we've seen with Jaden Springer's emergence since this Western Conference road trip on this Celtics bench, many Celtics fans, including myself, are calling for the Celtics to not move Jaden Springer, as we feel that he can provide some very solid defensive pressure for this Celtics backup unit, while also being able to develop his jump shot, as we've seen him to be able to hit some three-pointers in the glimpses that he has actually been able to run. If he can develop an offensive game, he can really help out with this team. But Lonnie Walker is a guy to really get into, because he's a guy, like we mentioned, that can provide that offense. Like Cedric Maxwell was saying, he's a bucket getter. He's a guy that is going to go out there. He is going to put the ball in the basket, and that is something the Celtics have recently seen with their struggles over in 2025. Since the start of this calendar year, we've seen the Celtics be a little bit shaky. In recent performances, they've been able to get the job done, but like I said, yesterday they came back in a 26-point deficit to come back and win this game. They barely crawled back to win this one, and were luckily able to crawl back and win this one. But if they had lost this one, it would have been due to the fact that they could not find the ball in the basket. And similarly, in other performances as well through this season, the Celtics have struggled not even just throughout the game, but in specific quarters, specific halves, even the fourth quarter specifically, finding the ball in the basket. And that ultimately is what leads them to lose these games, unfortunately, and to leave the fans irate, even if they had a good performance for a majority of the contest. And adding a guy like Lonnie Walker would be another guy that could do that off the bench. Similar like Peyton Pritchard, similar like Sam Hauser, he could be a guy that could get it going. So I want to know what your guys' thoughts are down below in the comment section. But like we kind of explored, should they do it? I honestly think they should. I think the Celtics would benefit greatly adding Lonnie Walker. And like we mentioned, he'd be a fringes player, but if the Celtics want to compete, they want to win a championship, why not have the most stacked roster? Pay all the luxury tax later. Don't worry about the money. Win a championship. Make the fans happy. And bringing back a guy like Lonnie Walker would definitely do that. I'm sure he has interest from multiple other teams across the league as well, but with already having a stint in Boston, and with Boston already trying to keep him on their roster going into the season, I'm sure Lonnie Walker would definitely welcome a reunion back to Boston, and I'm sure the Boston fan base would also welcome him back with open arms. They were super excited when he got signed initially to the Boston Celtics, with a lot of fans freaking out, saying this is the guy that they've been wanting for years. And I think Lonnie Walker has shown through in Lithuania that he can be a sporadic scorer for a playoff team, and I think that he can be not maybe a consistent guy in the NBA, but can be a guy off the bench in punches to give you that scoring that is necessarily needed. And if he can bounce back with this Celtics team and provide that, maybe he could find another contract in the NBA long term as well, regardless if it's with the Celtics or regardless with another team. That's all I'm asking for. I think Lonnie Walker could add some much needed, obviously, offense. And the best part about it, like Cedric Maxwell said, is you don't have to trade anyone. The Boston Celtics, if they wanted to move off a contract like Jaden Springer or possibly a guy like Xavier Tillman in order to free up a roster spot so they don't have to be that deep in the luxury tax, then sure, then they can obviously do that and bring in a guy like Lonnie Walker. But even if they wanted to keep these guys on this roster, they could still find a way to get Lonnie Walker by buying him out of that contract in Lithuania and bringing him over to the Boston Celtics team and having him be on this roster. And I truly think that even though it would hurt them in the luxury tax, you would be paying him $11 million, he would be sitting on the bench for a majority of the time. Having players like that is what helped the Celtics win last year. We saw with O'Shea Brissett, him get some sporadic minutes and really develop and deliver for the Celtics team in that second quarter of that Pacers game where they needed him most. And having a guy like Lonnie Walker could bring that out as well. And I think you take all the chances on all the possible players that you can to push for a championship, because the title window is now. We all know that with this team. And getting a guy like Lonnie Walker could easily help you out offensively. Yes, he has some flaws defensively, but I do think offensively, sporadically thrown in there, if a guy like Pritchard or Hauser is out, or one of them is having an off night off the bench, having an extra guy like Lonnie Walker for that much necessary offensive punch could be solid for this Celtics team. But I want to know your thoughts, like I said, down below in the comment section. So let me know what you guys think down below. Do you guys think Lonnie Walker would make a nice addition for the Celtics team, or do you ultimately think that the Celtics could be better off adding someone else? I want to know your guys' thoughts. You guys are absolutely fantastic. Like I said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. We'll have more videos coming out this week leading up to the trade deadline. And on Wednesday, once again, we will be live. If the Celtics make a move before then, we'll obviously dive in and talk about it a lot in detail on Wednesday. If not, we'll kind of gear up, get prepared, and kind of talk about what the Celtics could possibly do in a trade. My boy Nick NBA is going to be live on here with us once again on Wednesday, so it's going to be a fantastic show. So make sure you guys tune in. Like I said, you guys have been absolutely fantastic, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and go Boston Celtics.